Voicing their chants, the Lord of Skin and Sinew, the corpse grinder cult rise up in bloody rebellion in the dank depths of the Necromundant Underhive. Loads of you have been in touch with us to ask us to show you how to paint the armour of the Cult of the Primal Cut. That's the miniatures on the front cover of the Corpse Grinder box sets. So in this video, we're going to show you exactly how to do just that. Now, to prepare our model for painting, we've already undercoated it here with Mechanicus Standard Grey Spray, and the first thing we're going to do is apply a base coat of Hachette Copper onto the armour. Here we're using our medium base brush, so let's get straight to it. We're going to take a little bit of paint from the pot here and add it to our palette just here like so. Now we're going to add a little bit of water, but not too much here, just to make sure the paint flows on nice and easy to the miniature. There we go, perfect. Then, onto our corpse grinder. We're going to very carefully paint this onto the armour like so. Now, Hachette Copper is an unusual colour to use here for a base coat, as it's a layer paint, not a base paint. And as such, you'll see it's going on quite thinly, and therefore you might need a couple of coats to get a really solid colour. That's absolutely fine though. Don't be tempted to blob it on thickly to try and cover it in one coat. Just put one coat on thinly, allow that one to dry, and then place the second coat over the top of that. You may even need a third coat, it depends how solid your colours are after the second, but keep going until you've got a nice solid base coat to work with. So there we go, it's taken 3 coats to get a nice solid base coat of Hachette Copper on our armour, but it was worth taking the extra time. Alright, up next it's time to start shading down the armour. We're going to start off with a wash of Reikland Fleshshade all over. Then we'll add shades of Carroburg Crimson and Druchii Violet respectively, but more on those later. First of all, it's time for that wash of Reikland Fleshshade. For this, we're using our medium shape brush. Let's take a little bit of paint out of the pot like so and onto our palette. Now here, we're going to be thinning it down quite a bit. We want a nice subtle wash here. So just a little bit of water from the pot here, about 1 brush per brushful of Reikland Fleshshade. There we go, that's about perfect. Then, onto our miniature. It's going to very carefully apply it all over the armour of our corpse grinder. Now apply it quite heavily here, as you can see, but make sure as you're going that it's not pooling. You can see what we don't want is big areas just gathering together in the recesses, so make sure you're spreading that paint around with your brush. Once that's dry, we'll move on to the next stage. Once that's done, we're moving over to a medium layer brush and applying some thinned down Carroburg Crimson into the recesses of the armour. So rather than washing it all over the entire suit of armour, here we're just very carefully dabbing it into just the deeper recesses like so. We're also going to apply it to some of the larger flat areas here. For example, we're going to apply it just down the armour here like so, onto the axe head near the bottom here like so, like this as well. Just helping to break up some of those larger areas of metal like this. You can see the reason we've thinned it down so heavily with water is it's a nice subtle transition between the two colours, Reikland Fleshshade and Carroburg Crimson. Carry on doing this all the way around the model, picking out certain parts you like with the Carroburg Crimson like this. And once that's done, we'll move on to the next stage. Next up, we're doing the same again, this time with really thinned down Druchii Violet. Again, it's applying it to both the areas we previously painted with the Carroburg Crimson, just making sure we're leaving some of the red showing through. And also to the deeper recesses around the armour as well, to give a nice sort of subtle purple hint to our corpse grinder's armour. And there we go, that's the purple wash or glaze done on the armour, giving this really cool purple tint effect. Alright, there's one last thing to do on our Corpse Grinder Cult armour, and that's to apply a highlight. Now for this we're going to be using a very fine highlight of Stormhost Silver. We want to give a sort of impression of chips on the edges of the armour. So to do this we're going to be using our small layer brush. Let's take a little bit of paint from the pot here and apply it to our palette. Just going to add a little bit of water, but not too much. Just want to make sure that we're not overloading the brush, but also we're keeping a really nice fine point on the small layer brush. Then, onto our miniature. We're very carefully going to just pick out the absolute edges of all the metallic areas we've already painted here. So very, very carefully take your brush around here on the very edges of all the metal areas. Now, a good tip here is to use the edge of the brush here on the vertices, such as the hard edges like here on the blade. Just bring it down, get a really nice fine highlight on the edge like so. Do that around the armour, and once that's done, our armour's complete. And there we go, with the Stormhost Silver applied to the edge of the metal, that's our Corpse Grinder Cult armour complete. And that's how you can paint the Corpse Grinder Cult of the Primal Cut armour for your models in Necromunda. Good luck in the Underhive, happy painting.